All right, welcome back to the channel, guys. It's been a few days, but in today's video we are going to talk about narcissists and infantilization. We're going to talk about infantilization. We're going to talk about what that is and why narcissists do it, and we're going to talk about the differences between overprotected parents versus infantilization. So what is infantilization? I should get that off. I should start that off right away, explaining what infantilization is. Infantilization is not being overprotective. Infantilization is a form of abuse, usually done by narcissists to whoever their narcissist chooses as a scapegoat, and it is done to harm the child, and it is done to impair the child's growth. So narcissists will do this thing called infantilization, where they will deliberately and maliciously hold you back from achieving certain milestones that most normal people with kids, or I should say most normal kids achieve within certain age ranges. So for example, it could be anything from holding back their kids a few grades, to not allowing their kids to freely express themselves, to not allowing their children to partake in school activities, not teaching the children how to do their homework, babying the children way past an age that's appropriate, or babying their children to the point of something that's not appropriate. It could be any one of the things. But infantilization in its most basic form, done by the narcissistic parent, is treating their child, treating he or she like they are younger than they really are. So this is something my parents did to me growing up. This was their form of narcissistic abuse that they've inflicted onto me. And narcissistic parents, usually, if they're gonna go the route of infantilization, normally they're going to do it to their scapegoat child. Normally they're gonna pick a child as scapegoat first and foremost, and then they're going to inflict that abuse onto that child. So growing up, I'll give you a few examples. My narcissistic parents, in order to, a few of the things that they've done to hold me back was not, well, first and foremost, I can remember. First and foremost, one of the things they did is hold me back was they held me back into kindergarten. They held me back from advancing into the first grade, and I had to repeat kindergarten. Another thing they would do was just not teach me how to do any of my homework. They would expect me to know how to do my homework without teaching me. If I had questions that needed to be asked, or if I didn't understand something, my mother would yell at me. She would tell me to figure it out by myself. If I wanted to ask for help, she would, there would be times where she would attempt to help me but give up right away. And this was all done on purpose. This was all done maliciously and deliberately to make me give up on myself, essentially. Another thing they would do growing up, I'm sure some of your narcissistic parents might have already done. Another thing they would do was not allow me to learn how to cook they didn't allow me to learn how to cook. So growing up, I was never allowed to use the oven. I had never used the oven in my entire life growing up in the house. Never allowed to use it once. Didn't bake, never allowed to bake anything. I wasn't allowed to learn different recipes. Every time I tried to attempt to learn something, my narcissistic parents would shut that down immediately and make me give up. They would not allow me to learn certain things that I wanted to learn. Another thing they would do was talk to me in a kind of babying voice. My dad did this as well, but my mom did this more, where she would talk to me no matter how old I got. She would talk to me like I was a little kid, like I was 5 or 6 years old. So growing up, into my teenage years and even adult years, my mom would talk to me in an almost like childlike voice, like you're talking to a baby. She would talk to me in a kind of babying, coo voice, like a child, like you would a child. She would talk to me like that. So that was another way that my mom was trying to infantilize me, by talking to me like I was a lot younger than my age. And this is something that she had always done growing up, was talking to me like I was way younger than I really was. Another thing she would do was she would constantly offer to do things for me under the guise of love. And you may be thinking, well, this is just overprotected parents. No, I'll get into that in a second. She would she would wash my clothes when I did not want them washed. She would not teach me how to wash my clothes. She would be the one to do it. She would wash my clothes. She would not allow me to do it myself for many years. Another thing a few other things that she deliberately did to hold me back from getting independence was not teaching me how to open a bank account of my own. So I never knew how to open a bank account. She opened a bank account for me when I was 15 or 16. Ever since then, we had joint finances for a very long time, until I was taught by a friend on how to open my own bank account. So I was never taught how to open my own bank account by my mother or my father. I had to learn that from a friend, and this friend had taught me how to open my own bank account because my mother had control of my finances for many years. She could go into my bank account when she wanted to, look through my finances, take money out when she wanted to. She pretty much had control of it. Another thing that my mother would do was not teaching me anything about the real world. So, for example, I was not taught about finances of any kind. No financial education was given to me. She didn't teach me anything about saving, investing, anything like that. She didn't teach me about credit or what I needed to know to rent an apartment. She did not invest anything in my education whatsoever. This goes back to school, her not teaching me anything and not helping me with homework properly, not investing any time into my future. Those are a few other things that she's done. There's a lot of things that my mother has done to quote unquote infantilize me. Now, I already mentioned talking to me in a voice that is inappropriate for somebody my age. Like I said, that's another one that she used to do a lot. I kind of have to give this one some thought, because there were so many things that she's done, that she did. But she used to encourage me to smoke marijuana. There's a lot of things that, there's quite a lot of things that she used to do. Not teaching me how to drive was another one. She refused to teach me how to drive. I didn't get my driver's license till I was 19, almost 20. Refusing to teach me how to drive, not letting me go out and hang out with friends, not letting me this was a big one. I was not allowed to go out of my hometown for many years, or I should say I was not allowed to go anywhere in the city of Chicago or out of my hometown for many years. I was always supposed to stay strictly within the hometown and where I was born. She had constantly had monitoring on me through my cell phone, constantly texting, constantly calling, making sure that I was not going any farther than 30 minutes from the house. Another thing she would do was constantly call me at work or text me at work. She used to, I remember there was many times where she used to call me at work or text me at work. And you might think this is done out of concern, but it's not. This was done to further infantilize me. She would call me. There were a few times where she called me and texted me, and I didn't answer because I was working, and she had gotten the number of the store, and she had called the front end of the store and asked for my name. So that's just another thing that she used to do. Not teaching me how to use the dishwasher. That was another thing that she used to do. Didn't want me to use the dishwasher. If I tried to cook anything for myself on the stove, she would complain about that. I already mentioned that I wasn't allowed to use the oven. I was never allowed to use the oven. I never once used the oven in my house. It was strictly forbidden for me to use the oven for some reason, but my sister and my brother were allowed to use the oven. So I'm really not sure. I think that was me. Part of me being the scapegoat child is not being allowed to use certain things. I mean, another thing, I could really go on all day, but there were quite a lot of things done that were deliberately done to infantilize us. There's quite a lot of things. Easter egg hunts and getting Easter egg baskets well beyond an age that's appropriate to do. That was another thing that was done to infantilize me, keep me from growing up. There was a lot. There was a lot of things that have been done, but so that kind of concludes the infantilization part of the video. So that's kind of what you can expect if a narcissist is trying to infantilize you. Now, being an overprotected parent is different. Being an overprotected parent, you want the best for your kids, and you might be a little bit more strict on certain things. Like, I had this friend named Jared Cooney, and his mother was really nice. His father was really nice. Father worked hard. His mother was a stay-at-home mom, and I could tell that that her mom or his mom was a little bit stricter, and so was his dad. But ultimately, they cared for his well-being. He was limited to certain things. He wasn't allowed to do certain things, but it was not to the point as to where it was abuse. He was allowed to go outside. He was allowed to go around the block, things like that. He was allowed to hang out with friends. He was allowed to go places and do things. But he had obviously had a obviously had there were certain things he wasn't allowed to do. He had a curfew. He couldn't be out during certain hours. Like all kids have curfews. They can't be out in certain hours. He wasn't allowed to see his friends all the time, but he was allowed to see his friends. There are just certain things that overprotected parents, are a little bit stricter on. But narcissistic abuse and infantilization is a whole nother thing. What looks like overprotected parenting is actually something that's done in order to abuse the child. It's a form of abuse that's meant to hold the child back mentally from growing into a, from growing up into an adult. It's done on purpose in order to um, deliberately and mentally hold back a child, to stunt their growth. It's done to stunt the development of the child. It's not done as a way of caring for the child. But the thing with that form of abuse is it's so insidious that to the outside world it does not look like abuse. It just looks like overprotective parenting. But I can assure you, as somebody who grew up with this form of abuse by my narcissistic parents, it's not being overprotective. It's a form of abuse, and it has stunted me mentally, very much so. So I think that kind of concludes this video, and I hope that you all kind of understood what I hope you all kind of understand what infantilization is now. There's a difference between overprotecting. There's a difference between being an overprotective parent and infantilization. So again, I hope you guys have kind of understood what infantilization is now. I hope you kind of grasp the damage it can do. If any of you have gone through the same thing, please feel free to put a comment down below, like this video, share this video. If you believe you've gone through something like this and you didn't know the name before, well, now you know what the name is. This is a deliberate and insidious form of abuse that the narcissist does, usually when you're a young child, and they never stop doing it. So I think I'm going to end this video there. I hope that I gave you a good enough explanation as to what narcissistic infantilization is. And until the next video, I will talk to you guys in the next one. Take care.